I think what I'm gonna try and do is get my Sonic Heroes review done before the final Horizon update releases.
I said I would try. Would you look at that? Another dual marathon video! I mean, it's only been a year and a half since my Sonic Adventure 2 review. But in all seriousness, I am trying to be more active with my videos. It's just, I have very little time to edit with things like work, streaming, and visiting friends and family getting in the way. However, I am dedicated to at least getting through my Shadow the Hedgehog review by the end of the year. So without further ado, I bring you my long-awaited review of Sonic Heroes.
So despite the success of Sonic Adventure 2, the Dreamcast was a commercial failure, and Sega realized that they were better off as a third-party company than a first-party one, and in late 2001 ended up partnering with their former rival Nintendo to bring us Sonic Adventure 2 Battle for the Nintendo GameCube.
And it didn't stop there, as the very next year, in 2002, they gave us a brand new Sonic game for Nintendo's handheld at the time, the Game Boy Advance. Sonic Advance, to be exact, which, fun fact, is the first video game I ever played in my life. And Sonic Advance was successful enough to get 2 sequels released the following 2 years, Sonic Advance 2 being the best of the trilogy, by the way, in my opinion. But all eyes were on Sonic Team to give us the next mainline Sonic game in the series, and in 2004 they gave us just that. Sonic Heroes, the first ever multi-platform Sonic game, releasing on the GameCube, PS2, original Xbox, and even PC. Of course, one of the consequences of being a multi-platform release is that each console has different hardware, so they needed to take that into account, and thus, naturally, some versions would inevitably perform worse than others. The PC version is widely considered to be the least polished version. It has a ton of bugs that the console versions just don't have, and also the sound mixing is atrocious. Surprisingly, considering how things are today, the most stable version is actually the GameCube version. I say that's surprising because nowadays the Nintendo versions of multi-platform games are the worst. I mean, take a look at Sonic Frontiers, compare the PC version to the Switch version, and yeah, you can see the Switch version ain't pretty. So because of that, the footage recorded here is coming from the GameCube version being recorded off of an actual GameCube. Yes, I finally have an actual GameCube.
Now the main selling point of this game becomes evident when you look at the back of the case. This game has a total of 12 playable characters, but to mitigate that, the game uses a team-based mechanic where you play as 3 characters at once.
So let's start with the story.
Unlike the last 2 games, the story for this game is relatively straightforward. Each team goes through the same levels in the same order at the same time, but they all have different reasons for doing so. Team Sonic, comprised of Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, receives a letter from Eggman stating he has a new weapon and he will conquer the world in 3 days, so they set out to stop him.
Yo, Tails! Long time no see!
Team's dark story starts with Rouge, who has a new design that we never see again after this game for some reason, infiltrating Eggman's base looking for his secret treasure when she discovers Shadow in a cryopod. Upon releasing him, one of Eggman's robots, E123 Omega, attacks, mistaking Shadow for a robot and wanting to destroy all of Eggman's robots and Eggman himself. As it turns out, Shadow has amnesia,
Get used to that, by the way,
and can't remember anything from his past, while Omega is mad at Eggman for sealing him in this room. So with the 3 all having a reason to find Eggman, they team up and set out to track him down. Team Rose, comprised of Amy, Big, and newcomer Cream the Rabbit, are chilling on a beach reading a newspaper. Before I continue, I should mention that this isn't actually Cream's first appearance in the series. That honor goes to Sonic Advance 2, released 1 year earlier in 2003, where it was established she has a Chow friend that follows her around named Cheese, because the Sonic series naming convention is always on the nose, as well as a mother named Vanilla, who we don't actually see in Heroes. Anyways, it turns out that Cheese's brother Chocola, as well as Froggy, have been kidnapped, and the culprit appears to be Sonic. Yep, you heard that right. Big lost the goddamn frog again. Thankfully, there's no fishing in this game, or else I would have gone apeshit. Anyway, believing that Sonic couldn't possibly have done such a thing, Amy insists on finding him, as well as Froggy and Chocola, so the three head off. And finally, we have Team Chaotix, comprised of Vector the Crocodile, Espio the Chameleon, and Charmy B, who run a detective agency and get a job from an anonymous client via walkie-talkie that will allow them to pay the rent. Just like Cream, the Chaotix aren't newcomers either. Their first appearance was in Knuckles Chaotix for the Sega 32X, an add-on for the Genesis that I'm sure 90% of people never bought. This anonymous client, however, seems very suspicious to Vector, and he's not doing a good job of hiding his identity, saying things like he's the greatest scientist in the world and marveling at Eggman's creations.
Yeah, if you couldn't tell already, this anonymous client is Eggman.
We very quickly, and by that I mean halfway into a team's story, or roughly 1/8 of the way into the game, learn that the Eggman the teams are fighting in bosses isn't actually Eggman, but rather Metal Sonic, returning from Sonic CD, disguising himself as Eggman to collect and copy data from everyone, including Froggy and Chocola, who he kidnapped because they both have a connection to Chaos. Chocola being a Chow means he's from the same species as Chaos, and Froggy had swallowed a piece of Chaos back in Adventure 1. He also locked Eggman up, which is why he needed the help of the Chaotix to free him. After collecting everyone's data, Metal Sonic uses it to transform into a hideous beast, which takes a long-ass time to do so.
Yep, it's time for the transforming sequence. Yep, I'll be right back.
After transforming, Teams Dark, Rose, and Chaotix weaken him, and afterwards Team Sonic uses the Chaos Emeralds to transform into their super forms. Or rather, Sonic does. Tails and Knuckles only get these glowing spheres, like, what? We know they canonically have super forms, why weren't they used here? Anyway, after defeating Metal Sonic and returning him to normal, Team Sonic takes off to go on another adventure, Team Chaotix chases after Eggman to make him pay, literally, Amy chases after Sonic as usual, and Rouge playfully teases Knuckles saying she's going after someone else's treasure, referring to the Master Emerald. There is one other important note here. Before Metal Sonic's transformation, at the end of Team Dark's story, Rouge and Omega find a room full of shadow androids. This makes Rouge question whether or not the Shadow that's been with them this whole time is the real Shadow or just another android.
But that question isn't answered in this game, so let's just move on to the gameplay itself.
Like I mentioned earlier, this game utilizes a team-based mechanic where you play as 3 characters at once, each one having a unique stat: speed, flight, and power. Sonic, Shadow, Amy, and Espio are speed, Tails, Rouge, Cream, and Charmy are flight, and Knuckles, Omega, Big, and Vector are power. The speed characters are naturally the fastest and can also perform moves such as the homing attack and Rocket Excel, which is just an inferior version of the spin dash. Sonic and Shadow also naturally have the light speed dash, not needing an upgrade this time for it, but just like Adventure 2, it's mapped to the same button as the somersault, so it's very easy to do that instead of the light speed dash, causing you to fall to a lower section of the level or even to your death. Sonic, Shadow, and Espio also have a move called the Triangle Jump, which is basically just a horizontal wall jump. The flight characters naturally can fly into the air, but only for a limited time before becoming tired and dropping like a goddamn rock. They also carry their teammates under them, which I don't even want to know how that's possible. Okay, Tails carrying both Sonic and Knuckles, I can see. But Rouge being able to carry a large robot, Cream being able to carry Big's fat ass, and Charmy, a fucking bee, being able to carry Vector, a goddamn crocodile? How? They can also use their teammates as ammo to take down enemies. And finally, the power characters are all about brute force, using their teammates as weapons. Seriously, Knuckles uses Sonic and Tails as boxing gloves, despite already wearing some. Omega shoots Shadow and Rouge out of his cannons like cannonballs. Big hits Amy and Cream like baseballs with his fishing rod, and Vector spits Espio and Charmy out of his mouth. Ew. Also, Knuckles and Omega can do a move called the Triangle Dive, basically gliding but in a triangle formation with their other teammates. Big and Vector also have their own glide moves called the Umbrella Descent and Bubblegum Descent respectively. And when using any of these three moves over fans, you can gain some additional height. Throughout the levels, you'll need to switch between the three characters. Sometimes you'll pass through a gate which auto-switches the character, and sometimes you need to do it yourself by pressing the corresponding button as seen on the HUD. You'll need the right character to take down the right enemies because for the first time in Sonic history, each enemy has a health bar. No longer can you take them out in one hit unless you're fully leveled up, and even then that doesn't always work. You can level up by collecting these colored orbs or crossing a checkpoint as a certain character. There's also this Team Blast meter. Once it's full, you can press the button to do a Team Blast, taking out any enemy in the vicinity. Each one also has a different effect depending on the team. Team Sonics allows Sonic to use the Lightspeed attack, basically the Lightspeed dash but for enemies instead of rings. Team Darks freezes time, which can admittedly slow down progression. Team Roses levels each character up by 1 and also gives you invincibility and a shield. And Team Chaotix gets a shitload of rings, which can sometimes be enough to refill the meter instantly. Each team's levels has a different difficulty. You can basically sum it up this way. Team Sonic is normal mode, Team Dark is hard mode, Team Rose is easy mode, and Team Chaotix is mission mode. Yeah, unlike the other three teams, Team Chaotix levels require you to do missions, usually collecting a certain amount of something or getting through the level without being detected by enemies, using Espio's camouflage skills to hide from them. The only exception to this is Stage 7, Rail Canyon, in which you just need to get to the goal ring. So now let's talk about the levels. There are a total of 14 levels and 7 bosses, but the way they're stylized is actually very similar to the classic games, 7 zones each with 2 acts and a boss. For example, Seaside Hill can be considered Zone 1 Act 1, and Ocean Palace can be considered Zone 1 Act 2. So let's go through them each under that stipulation. The first zone is a beach-themed level with ancient ruins as well, with Act 1, Seaside Hill, focusing more on the beach aspect, and Act 2, Ocean Palace, focusing more on the ruins aspect. The boss here is the Egg Hawk, which you just need to chase down and endlessly hit until it's defeated. The second zone is Eggman City. Act 1, Grand Metropolis, is more focused on the outside, while Act 2, Power Plant, is more focused on the inside of various buildings. The boss here is a team battle in which you face off against another team. Team Sonic versus Team Rose, and Team Dark versus Team Chaotix.
Alright, then let's do it!
Here we go! Step back. Let us get the done.
I'll find Eggman first!
Eggman is mine. Get out of my way.
Bad guys, no way!
Here we go! To just cross the line and you'll regret it.
Yeah, these are piss easy. Also, Vector straight up calls Rouge a broad in the pre-battle cutscene.
Who's this broad?
Yeah, in case you don't know, broad is a slang term for a promiscuous woman. Basically a PG way of saying prostitute or slut.
Jesus, what was this game rated? E? I am shocked the writers managed to sneak that in there.
The third zone is your standard Sonic Casino level. Act 1, Casino Park, focuses a lot on the pinball tables, and Act 2, Bingo Highway, given its name, adds bingo chips you can collect. Now, normally pinball levels in Sonic games can be fun, but you ever tried to play pinball from the perspective of the ball? Well, that's basically how the pinball mechanics in this game are designed. It sucks. The boss here is a robot battle where you fight off hordes of robots while Metal Sonic hovers in the background. The fourth zone is a canyon filled with rails, trains, and cannons. Act 1, Rail Canyon, focuses on the rails, while Act 2, Bullet Station, focuses on the trains and cannons. Also, this game introduces a mechanic called rail switching. While the previous game introduced rail grinding, this one introduces the ability to switch between adjacent rails. Sometimes. Yeah, like most other things in this game, this mechanic is kinda jank. The boss is the Egg Albatross, keeping with the bird theme, I guess, which, again, you just need to endlessly hit until it's destroyed. Funnily enough, the final phase is just the Egg Hawk again, but with less health. The fifth zone is a jungle, or forest. It can't make up its mind, filled with green and black frogs. Act 1, Frog Forest, introduces the green frogs, which make white rain appear and help you move forward, while Act 2, Lost Jungle, introduces the black frogs, which make black rain appear and can slow you down or even hurt you with giant fruit. The boss is another team battle. This time it's Team Sonic versus Team Dark and Team Rose versus Team Chaotix.
Long time no see, boys. Too bad.
What was with that hedgehog that looked like my twin?
I'll leave it from here.
Not the best way to greet those you haven't seen in a while.
Dave!
Who are those guys? And how do they know me?
All right!
Once again, these are piss easy. The sixth zone is a haunted mansion with Act 1, Hang Castle, focusing on the outside with gravity switching mechanics implemented, which also changes the music.
Switch detected ahead.
Act 2, Mystic Mansion, is set entirely inside one mansion, with the switches now changing the layout of said mansion. The boss is another robot battle, but this time it's much harder. The seventh and final zone is Eggman's fleet of airships. Act 1, Egg Fleet, has you jumping from ship to ship in clear weather, while Act 2, Final Fortress, is set on the main ship with stormy weather. The boss here is the Egg Emperor, which is really fucking hard. No joke, no matter what team you play as, you are going to die multiple times before you beat it. However, of course, that's not the end, as just like with the last two games, there's a final story that's unlocked once you beat all the other stories. Oh, I'm sorry, you actually don't unlock it by just beating the four main stories, you also have to collect the Chaos Emeralds via special stages. And these special stages are fucking ass! Jesus Christ, I thought the Sonic 2 special stages were bad, but these are somehow worse! You have to collect these colored orbs to fill up your boost gauge, and that would be fine if the controls weren't slippery as fuck! Even the process of getting to the special stages is ridiculous. Spread throughout each stage is a hidden key, which, when you finish the level while holding, you enter the special stage. However, in order to get the Chaos Emerald, you need to do it on the Act 2 stages.
Okay then, let me just restart my console.
There we go, all good. Now let's do the special stage and...
So apparently my GameCube crashes when trying to load the special stages. I have no idea why that happens, but luckily I have a Wii so I can show you the special stages.
What makes this worse is that if you even so much as get hit, you lose the key. So, do yourself a favor, go for the Emeralds as Team Rose. They have the shortest levels and the least amount of enemies. It'll be much easier. So after doing all of that, you unlock the final story, which, gameplay-wise, is just a boss with two phases. Phase 1, Metal Madness, has Teams Rose, Chaotix, and Dark in that order, fighting Metal Sonic to weaken him. He'll try to attack with fire and a tail whip, as well as ice missiles and missiles that will trap you in a crystal if you're not careful. You need to attack his weak spot, and whatever color the weak spot is, means that that character won't do any damage. So if it's blue, the speed character is useless, if it's yellow, the flight character is useless, and if it's red, the power character is useless. After that is Phase 2, Metal Overlord, which has Team Supersonic fighting against Metal Sonic in the air. All you have to do is fill up your Team Blast gauge and then use it 5 times! Now let's talk about the music. This game's soundtrack is one of the best in the entire series. You know you have a good soundtrack when even the menu music is great. The game's main theme, fittingly just called Sonic Heroes, is one of my all-time favorite main themes in any Sonic game.
What goes up must come down. Yeah, my feet don't touch the ground. See the world spinning upside down. A mighty crash without a sound. I can feel your every rage. Step aside, I'll turn the page. Breaking through your crazy maze. Like a laser beam, my eyes on you. Watch me rule the night away. Watch me save the day. Feel my storm is getting close. Heading your way. Sonic Heroes. Sonic Heroes.
game has their own main theme, which are all good, but my personal favorite is Team Rose's theme, Follow Me.
Follow me inside, outside, through the stratosphere. The moon is shining for you. Knows that I adore you.
And of course, the level and boss themes are just amazing. Lastly, let's talk about the voice actors. Every returning character has the same voice as their previous appearance, except for Tails. Tails is now voiced by William Corkery, and his voice in this game...
Hey, look! It's Sonic! Sonic, check this out! What are we gonna do, Sonic?
It's goddamn adorable. As for the new characters that weren't in the past 2 games, Omega is voiced by John St. John, the same guy who does Big the Cat's voice, and as I'll remind you, Duke Nukem.
Sensors locked on Eggman. Non-compliant intruders will be destroyed. Must eradicate all Eggman's robots. Warning. Immediate destruction if distracted.
He's actually a really good voice for Omega. Cream is voiced by Sarah Wolfeck.
Amy, please be more careful with our only clue. Amy, are you sure Mr. Sonic is here? I bet you you're the ones who took Chocolate Chow.
She sounds like a little girl. Not much I can say there. Cheese, funnily enough, doesn't have a unique English voice actor since he doesn't say anything more than Chow over and over, so they kept his Japanese actress, Ryuhiro Hashi, who is also the current voice for Tails in Japan. Charmy is voiced by Emily Corkery, William's older sister.
You know what? Our client sure seems to know a lot about this Dr. Eggman guy. Yeah, time to rock and roll!
Espio is voiced by Bill Corkery, William and Emily's father.
I've got a bad feeling about this. That's the evil genius, Dr. Eggman. Where there's light, there's shadow. Careful.
Vector is voiced by Mark Biaggi, I hope I said that right, who was the same guy who voiced Gerald Robotnik in Adventure 2. I forgot to mention that last time.
SBO, don't be silly. Besides, you know our policy. We never turn down work that pays. Come on, boys, let's go!
And lastly, fittingly enough, Metal Sonic is voiced by Ryan Drummond, Sonic's voice actor.
Long time no see, Sonic. My loathsome copy. I am the ultimate overlord, Metal Sonic. I am the real Sonic.
Overall, despite how jank this game can be at times, I really enjoyed it. It was a unique concept for the franchise that I think worked really well. The levels are really well designed despite primarily being done by only one guy, and the music, as I said, is phenomenal. This is definitely a top 10 Sonic game for me personally. Overall, I give Sonic Heroes an 8 out of 10.
Man, things have been in an upward swing recently. I mean, 6.5 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10, 8 out of 10? Man, I can't wait to see what's next. Hey y'all, thank you so much for watching this review. It has been a long time since I have done a dual marathon video. It's not really much of a marathon at this point. But before I get back into the saddle with back-to-back dual marathon videos, taking a look at Shadow the Hedgehog, and then after that Sonic 06, I have no idea what I did with the case right now, so I can't hold it up. I have 2 more reviews that I need to get done first. First up is my redive of Sonic Frontiers, taking a look at the 3 updates they added this year, and then after that is my review of Sonic Superstars, which, as of the time this video is uploaded, is either coming soon or has already released. As of the time I'm recording, it is coming in just 2 days. Then, after that, I will finally get to my Shadow the Hedgehog review. Not looking forward to it, but hey. Of course, the amount of time in between this video and my Sonic Frontiers redive, and then the distance between my Frontiers redive and my Sonic Superstars review should be fairly short, because my Sonic Frontiers redive is only going to be looking at the new content that was added in the 3 updates, which should only take me about 5 hours of recording time. And then Superstars, from what I'm hearing, the game is only about 4 to 5 hours long, so there's that. Whereas Shadow the Hedgehog, the distance between my Superstars review and my Shadow the Hedgehog review will probably be a lot longer, because Shadow the Hedgehog is a really long game. Any of you who have played this game or even seen anything about it would know there are 10 different endings and then a final story. So, yeah, this is a long game. So, just putting that out there. My Sonic Frontiers redive and then my Sonic Superstars reviews should be coming fairly quickly, as in within just a couple of weeks from each other. But then my Shadow the Hedgehog review, this probably won't be out until mid to late December at the earliest. I am going to try and get it done before the new year, but I can make no promises, especially since I'm going to see my family in Kentucky for Thanksgiving, so I won't have access to my computer to be able to record footage or edit or whatever, so yeah.